Welcome to On the Spectrum podcast. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
And you are joining us for a very special 4th of July episode.
Absolutely. And I'm on location. Usually me and Steve are in the same room together. But I am in Pennsylvania today, so we're kind of doing a little bit of remoteness.
And if you don't know what the 4th of July is and you're not American, well, why are you listening to this podcast? No, I'm just kidding. I know we have listeners from other countries, and it's okay. If you're from another country, you just need to understand that America is the best.
Honestly, I think everybody knows what 4th of July is. I think most people around the world know that the United States celebrates the 4th of July.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, for the most part, a lot of autistic folk, at least based on the video you did on our Facebook page, a lot of folks on the spectrum, not big fans of holidays and getting together with people.
Or loud noises and things exploding.
Yeah, that true statement as well. A little sensory overload there.
You'll find us under the bed with the dog.
It's because we're comforting the dog. That's it. That's it. Comforting the dog. But yeah, we've actually got a lot of good response from some of the videos that you made, especially that one about holidays. A lot of people on the spectrum have a tendency to agree that family gatherings or going to in-laws places and stuff is kind of a thing that bothers them, or rather they just don't want to do.
I think it's a forced social interaction. It's there's a certain expectation that you're going to have to talk to people, and you know, if you have relatives, they're going to be like, so how's your job and what's going on with that? It's like, I don't want to talk about this. But
well, I mean, I think that's a lot of what that not wanting to be in those environments is kind of about too, is not just because, sensory and dealing with people and being social, but I think it's because they're going to ask questions like, have you found a job yet? Or
it's not just an autistic thing though, too. I think a lot of people in general just don't feel like dealing with their family and social situations, but it's just as somebody pointed out the other day, actually, this is something I was just reading about yesterday on Reddit. There's a Reddit page called Our Autism, which I think we've talked about before in our Reddit episode. But our Autism, somebody posted this long thread complaining about how people are constantly talking about things being autistic that have nothing to do with autism, or people saying, well, I do this, this, and that.
Yeah.
Does that make me autistic? And it's something stupid about I like to mix turkey and ham on my sandwich. Does that make me autistic? And it's like, what does that have to do with autism? But they were pointing out that a lot of the things that people talk about being autistic, and you've mentioned this before too, is just there are things that apply to everybody, just apply to human beings in general. It's just that a lot of the things, in order for it to be quote unquote autistic, it has to be, they affect us differently. So a lot of things that happen to normal people are just magnified a bit based on sensory issues or other things.
Different level of severity.
Right. So a lot of people might not like going to parties or being put in certain social situations, but it's just magnified when you're autistic. That's all.
Yeah. I actually read somebody was talking about being an introvert, and they were saying that most people on the spectrum are introverted. And then somebody else started to argue with that. And I'm kind of I'm with the person who's arguing with that, because the person who said most people on the spectrum are introverted, they said because they're introverted, so they can only imagine that others. And I think that sentiment in our community is out there a lot. I think there's a whole lot of people who, honest to God, say, well, I'm autistic and I do it this way, so there's got to be more people who are autistic who do things that way. And I don't doubt that that's a thing, but I do doubt that it's just autistic people doing it that way. Because if you think about it, I know a lot of people don't like to talk about how there is a set of criteria or there's a set of things that make us autistic. And it's the level of severity, because we're all human to begin with. And so we all, as humans, whether it's NT or ND, we have tendency to do a lot of the same things, but it's the level of severity and how much it disrupts our life. And I know some people call that ableism right there. because we shouldn't compare ourselves to NTs. Well, I get it, but we also live in their fucking world. So if we can't function the way their world says, you know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people. So what you said, as
Yeah,
far
because I think
as,
I just rambled on for a second there.
well, I mean, what you said also applies to non-autistic people as well. I mean, not being able to look outside of your own experience.
Yes, it's
I mean,
very
that's
humanistic
not
thing
that's
to do.
not an autistic thing. That's a human thing. Is people
Yep.
have a hard time understanding, which is why I'm a big fan of. If somebody is real ignorant about something, I'm a big fan of just trying to expose them to other things. If you're ignorant about food, expose you to other types of food, expose you to other types of culture, expose you to other things. So when it comes to like a bigotry, that might not work with everybody, but it's hard to hate people if you make a bunch of friends or if you learn more about a group of people, you know?
Well, I think that's probably something that in our community, especially like level 1 autism, I think a lot of us who sit in that area of autism, I think that's one of the things that kind of unfortunately we miss out on, or that we miss altogether for behavior, is because we also say to ourselves and we hold ourselves to this standard of like, we're such good researchers. Well, no, I don't think we're any better or worse than anybody else. I think, yes, we do more of it, but I don't think we're any better at it because we still have tendency to look up things that validate what we already feel, what we already think. And we also look at, what is it? Confirmation. We're already
Confirmation bias.
Confirming. Yeah, we're already doing that. And I think because we're human, we do that. But being autistic, we fixate on the topic, we look into it a lot, but we're not necessarily looking to challenge our belief. We're looking to confirm our belief.
I mean, confirmation bias is a problem with any type of research at all that's ever done, or even when scientists are doing studies. I mean, that's part of the reason why the scientific method exists, is to try to avoid things like that. But people still will, depending on how you put together your methodology and what you're doing, people will find a way, even if it's, a lot of it is subconscious. It's not a conscious thing that people do. They do it just because you want so badly to confirm what you already believe that you'll subtly set it up in a way to set yourself up for success or to find what you're looking for.
I mean, I always have tendency to try to challenge what I believe, especially when it comes to behavior stuff, right? When I look up behavior stuff, like if me and you have a conversation and you say something that kind of sparks my interest of like something you read behaviorally, when I go to look up stuff, I actually purposely try to find stuff that challenges or disproves what I already think about it. So like when me and you talk and I take a very firm stance on one side of something, I actually purposely go out to find something that says I'm wrong more so than I'm right. And one of the reasons why I do that is because, for one, I know full well I could be wrong. So I'm actually attempting to go the opposite direction, which also has its own faults in it. Because if I'm only looking for stuff that confirms I'm wrong, I'm also being swayed and influenced by that information I'm finding too. And I kind of wanted to bring this up when it comes to confirmation bias, because I think this goes with it. When we go to research stuff, and this is the way it seems like to me, I'm not saying this is absolutism or definitive, but it seems like a lot of the times from like reading stuff people post on Facebook and Instagram and some of the TikTok videos that I now have to watch because of this, I notice a lot of the times that folks have tendency to add stuff, talk about stuff, and kind of throw stuff out there about autism and about the autistic community. And they say things with such certainty that everybody in the community believes in something, one thing or another.
That's YouTube or TikTok in general.
Right. No, it absolutely is.
Anybody on any of those short platforms will pose information that way. That's how they present, as if this is the only truth. This is the truth, and this is the only truth.
But I even find it on Facebook. Like people will write up these long descriptions before an article of something, or they'll slap some stuff up there. Like I saw a post today, and I'm not going to say who put it out there because I actually don't dislike this person at all. But they put out a post and they said, right at the beginning, I don't want anybody to argue with me. I don't want anybody to comment on this. And they kind of, I guess, stopped people from being able to do so. But what they said in it was that if you are X way about autism or about neurodivergent, you're wrong. And I'm okay with you not following me. And it was just that sentiment sounded very biased and prejudiced and very almost bigoted to an idea, right? A different direction or a different thought process. And it kind of like made me think about like, we're in a community that is openly talking about inclusion, that is openly talking about accept people for the individual that they are. And on the flip side of that, we're saying that if you don't agree with what I believe, fuck off. And I'm like, really? Because we of all people being autistic and being neurodivergent, we should be far more embracing different thought processes, different ideas than others. Honestly, I think we should, but we don't. Almost the opposite of it. It's kind of like the argument of the symbols, because I saw this post today too. And I'm sorry, I'm like rather about my speech today, but so I saw this today. The question was posed by somebody on Facebook that we should find a symbol that represents all of us, whether it be.
I think we should take the Prince symbol now that he's dead. We'll just take that one.
I agree. I would agree with that completely. Either the gold infinity symbol, the rainbow infinity symbol, which the fuck. And then somebody argued against the puzzle piece, and I understand why some people dislike the puzzle piece in general, because they automatically associate it with that we're missing something, which I never looked at the puzzle piece to mean that we're missing something. I looked at the puzzle piece to mean something a little different. And I always thought it kind of made sense for us. And I don't know. Some people also don't like talking about our.
We should make a cross.
What
the heck was that?
What'd you say? What's up?
Oh, I think my work phone is on because I heard a noise.
All right.
I think we should change the symbol to on one hand we'll make an X. So one is a syringe that has the MMR vaccine, and then the cross will be a giant flake of lead paint. It's like a lead paint. and that will be, maybe we'll put a soybean behind it.
Yeah.
Because apparently soy causes autism too.
So
soybean, lead paint, and MMR syringe. MMR vaccine syringe.
I will say something like if you're a person on the spectrum and you want there to be a cure, why can't you have that opinion? I mean, I don't want that. I very much embrace the fact that I do have deficits that have something to do with autism, but as a human being, I have some deficits compared to other people and vice versa, right? But like I saw somebody shit on somebody who identified as being autistic, and they said that if there was a cure or some level of medication treatment that could help them socialize better or overcome some of the other things they find to be deficits of autism, they would take it. And all of these people started shitting on them saying, we don't need a cure. We don't need a cure. But they didn't, the person who said that they would want that didn't say autism should be cured. They said if there was a way to cure theirs, they would take it. And I think to jump on people and say, fuck you, we don't need a cure, just because they want alleviation from it, that's how we come to an understanding of one another, is we allow people to talk about some shit.
Also, you can disagree with something. You don't have to agree with it in other words, in order to be able to have the discussion, right? So it's not like
that'll hurt our community.
It's not like the idea is that unreasonable. Yeah. Like even if it maybe it's triggering or it hurts your feelings, but like what she's saying, there's a logical reason for her viewpoint. You don't have to agree with it, right. But excuse me, sorry, I'm like a little phlegmy today. But yeah, it's not like she's just pulling it out of her ass. She has a reason why she thinks that way. Do I necessarily agree with it? I don't know. But I mean, she doesn't want other people to have to go through some of the stuff she went through, and
That's right.
she had a tougher time
Absolutely.
than a lot of people like us.
Well, yeah,
She grew
because
up
she also came from
nonverbal, and she had a lot more issues than we had growing up,
right.
in regards
I
to
mean,
her
she
autism.
came from a time period where not a lot of people were diagnosed, as well as not a lot of women were diagnosed. You know what I mean? And she became a forefront person of it.
She's fucking Dr. Doolittle.
Yes, come on.
She talks to animals. She speaks to animals better than she speaks to people.
That's all right. I know a lot of people who actually speak to animals better than they speak to people, and most of them are vets. So, but I actually like, if somebody says all autism should be cured and they're not part of the community and they have not dealt with the struggles of being autistic, I don't like what they're saying, because I don't think their intentions are good in any way, shape, or form. But if an autistic person says, if you could give me a pill to make me more social, I'd take it. They're not saying everybody on the spectrum should. Same thing with like the representation of like puzzle pieces, or whether you identify as I'm autistic or I have autism. I don't give a shit which way you identify. Like, I don't care if you even identify or not. That's your choice to make. Have an opinion. Like, I mean, granted, we have a different perspective, obviously, because we are white and male and autistic, and tons of people would say that we're the most represented, even though I'll tell you, no, I'm not, because visually, according to you people, I probably am. But I'm also
I can't wait for Baldur's Gate 3 to come out.
Anywhere. What?
I can't wait for the new Baldur's Gate to come out so I can get past level 1.
Yeah. That's fucking hilarious. No, like, and I do agree with that. Like, we do need to have more representation when it comes to, man, I am flying all over the place today, aren't I, Steve?
It's okay. Do your thing, homie.
Wow. I just realized I'm flying all over the fucking place. Holy shit. All right. Let me go back to the talking about things and identifying. I was about to stray off in another fucking direction again. I
identify as a tuna steak.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And I respect you for that. I respect your identity, tuna steak. But when it, like, our community is so segregated and fragmented among people who want to keep Asperger's syndrome as a name, that take pride in being Aspie, or the people who say I have autism opposed to I am, or the people who are vice versa of that. I think and some people want to talk about like the harm all of that causes. And honest to God, I think people forgot what harm really is, because everything somebody dislikes seems to be harming the community.
I think what harms people is having to deal with the world around them and having to deal with people who don't understand autism, and not fighting over semantics and fighting over words and fighting over, I don't know, the etymology of the words that we're using and that type of stuff. I think the everyday things that we have to deal with living in the world as autistic people. The gentleman we had on, Shay, who works for Mentra. I mean, those people are actually trying to make a difference and make the world easier and a better place for us to live in. Workplace dealing with the workplace is a huge obstacle for people like us. Those are the things that we actually struggle with, and fighting over terminology and the way we phrase things, even though most of the things we're fighting over, we're fighting over shared experiences and things that are similar, and we agree with each other on most things, but then we're fighting over the words we use.
No, go ahead.
I'm just saying, it seems like the focus is on the wrong thing. It's kind of like, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were complaining about immigration. And so they were like, oh, well, people come to this country and they want to take advantage of everything that's here and blah, 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 blah. And there's too many people coming. I'm like, okay, well, you were complaining about the government and complaining about politicians and way the money's wasted and how, rich people get all these tax breaks and stuff like that. It seems to me like you're directing your anger in the wrong direction.
Right.
Why are you mad at immigrants who are trying to come here just trying to make a better life for themselves? Shouldn't you be, if you're really mad about all the freebies that they get, supposedly, shouldn't you be mad at the politicians who are giving them those freebies and not the people themselves?
Right. Yeah. Be mad at the program, not the people using the resource sitting in front of them.
Because if the situation was reversed, you would do the same thing. Also, like, you're mad at the person who's getting barely any money, who's poor and just scraping by, versus the people who are taking advantage of their political power, taking advantage of all the money that we give them.
Right. I can actually equate that to the way we're the autism community in that way a great deal, because people want to say that, like, using the puzzle piece is harmful, but yet the most recognizable symbol for the autism community is the puzzle piece. More people know that than they know the damn infinity symbol. Like, in our community, we talk about and show images of the infinity symbol, but most other people have heard of Autism Speaks. And if you believe that, whether you believe that they're a good organization or a bad organization, that's more of what people have heard of. And I'm not saying we adopt the puzzle piece just because it's the most recognizable, but I am saying that every time somebody goes, ooh, no, fuck them, fuck that, puzzle piece is harming us, I think that's kind of the same thing as blaming, somebody who's poor, who's trying to take advantage of lost that word altogether.
Take advantage of social programs?
Yeah. Using the social programs opposed to the program itself or the people who put that program in place.
Right. I'm not saying anything one way or the other as far as social programs, as I was just trying to point out. I'm not taking a political stance here. I'm just trying to point out to the person that you're directing your anger in the wrong direction.
Right.
And that's what I feel like people who are complaining are fighting with other autistic people there.
Right.
Like, you could put your all of the emotion and a passion that you have, you could direct it towards something more productive, or direct it in a way that would actually try to make things better for us.
I agree completely. Far too many people want to try to control, and I've seen gatekeeping as a term for it, try to control the language and try to control the output of what is being seen, but they're also not looking at the way they're demeaning, diminishing, and hiding some parts of autism and some people who are autistic, opposed to embracing the difference. And yet they also love to put up, and there's one person in particular who does this, who says, if you believe in autism this way, whether you're autistic or not, stop, you're harming the community. And then they put up posts. Oh man, I just had it and I just lost it. Holy crap. Then they put up posts about how everybody on the spectrum is different, and so you have to treat them as individuals. But they're not doing that. And granted, that's very humanistic.
You see a lot of those
hypocritical, but
ultimatums. You see a lot of those ultimatums with people who have different political beliefs. It's like, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, and if you believe any of this stuff, then stop being my friend. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Or if you voted for Trump once, I never want to talk to you again in my life. Or if you are if you are believe in abortion, then I never want to, all this stuff. People do these ultimatums, LGBTQ issues too. They draw a line and they say, if you don't agree with me on this, then I don't even want to talk to you.
Yeah. I saw a couple weeks ago, I saw a meme that said, if you're not for trans rights, you're not for autistic rights. And I get there's a lot of people in both communities that, there's a lot of overlap between those two communities of people who are members of both. But there's also probably got to be somebody in the trans community who thinks we're just like, mentally deficient, and then vice versa. There's probably some autistic people who are like, we're no icky.
Also, what do you mean by trans rights, and what do you mean by autistic rights?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, they're specifically like they're making a general statement because it is, Pride Month and all that. Well, it was Pride Month. Now we're in the second day of July, but I don't know, like even in Autism Month there, what was it? April. even in that month, people would put stuff up very similar to that. And like, I don't agree that we should support each other because there is so much overlap. But at the same time, saying you're part of this community and because you don't agree with everything for both communities, screw you. But again, we're still human at the end of the day, which means we're still going to be racist and prejudiced and biased and all of those ists kind of things regularly because we're still human.
I think the type of people who would complain about the things that you're talking about probably would also get angry every time I make an MMR joke. So
yeah, they are probably more than likely.
I'm not going to stop making them though.
As you shouldn't.
I'm mocking the vaccine thing. So, I mean, if you're offended by it, then you don't understand the joke.
That's a true statement. And if you don't understand sarcasm, well,
or you actually think that it causes autism, and then you're mad that I'm making a joke about it.
Right. Yeah. There's that too. I like, honest to God, like I was talking to one of my coworkers who is not on the spectrum, and
they could be.
What?
I said they could be. Just give them some tofu.
Well, I mean, they could be. You're right. They could very well be. They don't know quite yet.
They need some tofu.
I don't diagnose people.
Tofu, Pepto-Bismol, maybe a few antacids. I think we'll take care of it.
Give them a couple vaccines. Why not? Anyway, so I was talking to them, and they were talking about representation for their community, for what the community they're a part of, and they asked me because they enjoy the show Good Doctor, and they Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. They brought up some of those, and they were like, well, are those good representations of people on the spectrum? And I said yes and no. I mean, they don't represent the vast majority of people on the spectrum, but there are people on the spectrum who behave like that, who are like that. Not necessarily all of us, not even all of the white males on the spectrum act like them, but they do represent somebody. And that actually got me to think about something is nobody thinks that there's any good representation for autism at all. And it really got me to think about like that idea of difference. And I would rather have, and I think I've said this before, maybe on the podcast, maybe just to you, but I would rather have a not great representation of autism than have no representation. And then also, because I've been rewatching Glee lately, there's actually an autistic character on Glee. I didn't remember that, but there's an autistic female, white female on Glee. She actually identifies as being autistic. Granted, they use the jokey version of it, which is she says something offensive or rude, and she goes, "Oh, it's okay, I'm autistic," or something to that effect. Sorry. I went from talking about representation in a real way, and then I de-evolved into saying,
at least she can say that.
On Glee.
A lot of times I just thought I was an asshole because I didn't know I was autistic. So I would say something that would piss everyone off. And I'm like, what? What did I say?
Yeah. I'm still dealing with the side effects of constantly being called an asshole and rude, opposed to just understanding that. By the way, it is also possible to be an asshole and to be autistic.
I would say something that would piss everybody off, and then they would be like, what? Well, if we shouldn't have to explain what you did, you need to understand.
Oh, fuck that. I hate that so much.
Like,
I hate that. You know, if I knew why I was being rude, I probably wouldn't have been rude, but why don't you explain it to me so I don't do it again?
No, I don't want to have to explain it to you, because then that somehow diminishes my being upset with you or something.
Right. Somehow. Although I will say this, like I've pushed people further and been like, no. If you find it rude, you got to tell me how it's rude. You got to tell me why it's rude. And they were like, well, because I'm offended. And I was like, that doesn't make it rude. That doesn't make it some social contract breach just because you're upset by it. That means you're upset by it and you're trying to justify the way you
Well, I mean, I will say,
telling me I was wrong.
A lot of times I was being insensitive. I just didn't realize I was being insensitive. Like making a comment that, I mean, doesn't mean that I was being untruthful, but you have to, I think as autistic people, we have a tendency to be too honest sometimes.
We are.
Some people don't want to always hear the truth, or don't want to deal with the truth. So if you you know, it's kind of like if somebody asks if they look fat and you say, yes, you look obese. But
Well,
that's not a nice thing to say.
But here's the onus on their side of it. If they didn't want to hear the truth, they shouldn't have asked.
Because but they don't expect people to actually say that.
I'm still going to default to that's partially on them. There's a part of them that's responsible for that reaction too. Not just because their insecurities cropped up and they were upset by it after the fact, but also they're the ones who asked the question. If they didn't want any of the possible answers to be said out loud, then they should not have asked the question.
I think I don't know if this is true or not, but it's just as I'm thinking about it, it could be a trauma response for me that a lot of times when people ask me questions that I don't want to give them the answer to, I just don't say anything. And then I'm like, why aren't you answering me? Why don't you want to say anything? Because I don't want to tell you the truth. So a lot of times when people ask me for something, I just won't say anything because I don't want to lie. I don't want to be dishonest, but I also don't want to tell them the truth because I know in the past what's happened when I'm direct and honest with people and then they get upset or they get pissed at me. So I'd rather just not say anything.
I used to have that response too. And then I started thinking to myself and kind of telling myself that, yes, this is what happened to me in the past, but not with this person. This person is new to me. I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt. I'm going to try to talk to them. I'm going to give them my honest opinion. And if it works out the exact same way it always has, fine, so be it. That's just one more people on that list of people that I've pissed off in life. I'm a little bit more accepting and willing to accept making a mistake that way or pissing somebody off. I've always been more willing to accept that. Actually, I'm not sure why I'm more willing to accept pissing people off than now.
Sorry, I made a note because I had an idea for something actually for Natalie. Based on our conversation, she asked me about writing something for her. And I actually had an idea because the theme that she wants to write about or wants me to write about has to do with love, or what she told me was twisted love. Twisted love. Okay. And I was trying to brainstorm ideas, but one of the things that just occurred to me was, why don't I write something based on what I know and based on some of my own experiences? I can write a script that includes the introspective, the first person account of the autistic person in different relationships and put that into a script. So sorry.
A script for what?
Fundraiser.
Huh?
Anyway, it's okay. Fine.
Okay. So for those who might eventually listen to this episode, he mentioned Natalie. Natalie is actually my partner. Been with her for a while, and she reached out to you to write a script for.
Well, she didn't. That's not how it happened. But when she was here for rehearsal, we talked about it.
Okay. So the other night.
Right. And
which, by the way, just in case anybody heard me say that and you're like, oh, he sounds jealous. I'm not actually. I just thought it was interesting.
She was throwing out some ideas because she had to scrap some of the ideas she had before. And one of the ideas she came up with was if I could write a couple shorts. And I was like, sure.
Yeah, I got you.
So, and I think that would be a really good idea to try to take our experiences or some of the things that happened to us, or at least to me, and then verbalize it in a way through a script that other people might be able to understand.
Right. And I agree. And I'm not upset with her or even like slightly tweaked or like, oh, how come she didn't ask me? Because you're the better writer out of the two of us. So I very much agree. You're far better at talking. Far better at writing, and I'm far better at talking. Or at least, let me rephrase that. I'm quicker to talk than you, which could be a good and a bad thing at the same time. So anyway, getting back to where we were.
I make a lot of stupid connections.
What?
I was saying I make a lot of weird connections or quick connections.
Yeah.
So that's why I make a lot of stupid jokes, because I'll just connect A and B. Like, oh, that's funny.
Let's remind folks, too, that we also perform improv together in a comedy group. And so associating things is kind of one of those skills that we've developed and got real good at.
I mean, I've always made weird associations. So that was one of the easier parts of improv to me. When we started doing it, The association part is the easy part. It's the rest of it that's more difficult. Like doing the quick jokes is the easy thing. Like, what does X make me think of?
Right. Yeah, I was always quick at that. It's the energy, the emoting, that kind of like working off the
listening.
Other people.
Yes, anding.
See, that's why I'm the host, okay? Because I don't have to listen to nobody. I just got to talk.
Yeah, instead of just making a bunch of stupid jokes and actually listening to what other people are saying in the scene.
Exactly. All I've got to do is just make you guys look better by being a shitty, by saying dumb shit first.
So, apparently stem cells cure autism.
Oh my God, he did not just lean into that. Oh my God. Okay, please clarify for anybody who just listened to you.
Oh, somebody had told me the other day that stem cells can help or cure autism, but if you look into it, there's no evidence to suggest that at all. I'm not saying it doesn't or it can't. I'm just saying that there's no evidence that states that. There's no scientific research, nothing. But there's anecdotal stories. So
there's also anecdotal stories that there's a behavior program out there that can cure autism too. And there's like this husband and wife and their son who like have said, well, he's cured of autism. And he talks about how he's cured of autism. Take one look at the motherfucker, hear him talk once, and you will think otherwise. Actually, I'm very much against that program. I'm not going to say what the name of the program is because there are people who get help from it. There are people who liked it. What?
The Jesus video I sent you. There's a Christian healer who cured a boy's autism with the
supposedly
name, the power of Jesus.
Yeah.
I felt bad laughing at it because it was so ridiculous. And it's sad because, you know, the situation for the mother and the kid to be that. Yeah. And like maybe he actually thinks he is cured or maybe the mother actually thinks he's cured. But so it's sad, but I couldn't help but laugh at it because the kid, he starts talking and he's noticeably autistic without trying to sound offensive. He's noticeably autistic. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm cured. And he's still noticeably autistic after he's saying he's cured and praising Jesus. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. The whole situation is just so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh. But it's sad at the same time. Like the actual situation itself is sad, but it's just the video is funny.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to the idea of curing autism or treating autism or trying to make it go away, like, yes, masking can be harmful, but it can also be very helpful. Some people get a lot of help from ABA. Some people don't. Some people find it torture. And really, it's not ABA that is. It's the practitioner who fucked that shit up. But regardless of that opinion, some people get help from it. Some people don't. Some people want a cure. Some people don't. I think it's okay either way, as long as they're not trying to push that on anybody else. Like I actually saw somebody who said that ABA stems from conversion therapy. And actually, the entire premise of ABA comes before conversion therapy. They actually kind of both come from behaviorism. And yeah, ABA has actually been around a lot longer. Behavior modification has been around a lot longer than fucking conversion therapy. So anybody who says it's the same thing as conversion therapy, only because they're both grounded in fucking behaviorism. But anyway, what was I trying to say with that?
You said you wanted to talk about your idol, Josef Mengele.
Yes. So such a great guy, has done so many good things for the community. Not at all. Man, I really enjoy it when he decided to treat people like crap and kill them for fun. Not at all. You know, one day, dude, I'm going to try to figure out how not to seem like manic when we record. One day I'm going to figure that out.
What about your other idol, Kevin Spacey?
You are a horrible human being. I think he's a good actor, horrible person. My opinion. So yeah. Sorry, I was trying to calm myself down before I went on another rant about and flew off in 90 directions.
Did you have your golden smacks this morning?
No, I've had coffee and I had breakfast this morning, which is unusual for me. I don't usually eat breakfast in the morning.
That's right. You don't eat cereal, right?
Not really. No. Maybe as a dessert kind of thing or something sugary, but every now and again, but not really. No, I barely do breakfast ever.
Yeah.
I kind of wake up, have 9 cups of coffee, and move over.
Yeah, you got to watch out for those eggs, you know.
I know, right? Cholesterol and all that jazz.
No, I was thinking about the omega-3s cause autism. So,
is there actually somebody who has said that? Oh, good.
Who's making stuff up now at this point?
Well, there's honest to God, man, there's a fuck ton of things that people actually say have contributed to autism that literally have nothing to do with nothing.
Yes.
There's so many things. Have you heard the frequency one? The like radio wave frequencies and sound frequencies that has created autism?
No. Have not. Although I am curious as to radio waves. Not all radio waves are equal. So depending on the frequency, they can have an effect on the body. I don't think that they would cause autism, but
how much of an effect are they really having?
Well, it depends. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I do know that.
Yeah, me neither.
The electromagnetic spectrum and radio frequencies, any types of waves, depending on the frequency, the wavelength and the frequency and all that. Most radio waves just pass through us.
Right.
But I'd be curious to know if they do have an effect maybe on a smaller molecular cellular level. There is some scientific, there is some research that shows that certain radio waves can have an effect on our body. I don't think it would cause your brain to be autistic, but
I can't imagine that it does that either.
I mean, technically microwaves are a radio wave. They could cook you.
Yes, that's true. So I think what Steve was saying with that last statement is try not to get yourself in your microwave.
Right. Don't stand too close to a radio tower.
Oh, really?
And a 5G will cause cancer and autism.
Yeah. Oh, good God. No one believed that shit. Nobody.
Well, there was a big conspiracy theory about 5G because 5G is very short wavelength. It's high frequency, but typically the higher the frequency, the shorter the wavelength. So older is
less penetrative, if I remember correctly.
It's less penetrative and it doesn't go as far. It doesn't travel as far. So low frequency waves travel for long distances. So like AM radio, for instance, is low frequency and it will travel for a very long distance. FM radio is higher frequency, but still travels a decent distance. And then when you get like cell phones, older cell phones before smartphones, your basic cell phone signal is lower frequency, like television bandwidth, and they'll travel for long distances and penetrate buildings well. But that's why with something like 5G, they have to put so many towers everywhere. So 5G,
it's like twice as many as 4G or something to that effect.
They have to put them everywhere because the signal doesn't travel very far. It's super high frequency. So people were worried that the ridiculously high frequency of the waves would somehow mess with our bodies or cause harmful effects to us. And I don't think there's enough. Well, there's probably, maybe it does, but there's not enough information on it. Maybe 10 years from now, we'll find out that we're all going to have ass cancer from 5G. I don't know. But that was like a conspiracy. The conspiracy was that they were doing it on purpose to make us sick. And at one point, somebody was saying that 5G was causing fucking COVID. And there was a conspiracy about that. Other people were saying that the rich elites were doing it because they wanted to give everybody fucking cancer or kill us all off to thin the population. There's this whole conspiracy about not the Illuminati, but like some type of group that wants to thin out
cabal.
They want to thin out the population, that the world's overpopulated and that they want to reduce the world's population down, which if you're one of these rich elites and you get rid of, a third of the population in the world, who are you going to have working for you or making your wealth?
Right. Like some of those conversations that people say about that kind of stuff, It's like it's counterproductive. What did somebody else say? Oh, they're trying to make us all poor. Well, that's counterproductive actually to make us all poor, because who's buying their product then to keep them rich?
I know your favorite boy, Jordan Peterson.
Oh, I love it when you say that, because not at all.
So there was something interesting he said once. He was talking about you need kind of a balance, right?
Yes.
At some point, if you have too many poor people, and the rich people won't be able to stay rich if too many people are poor,
right?
And if too many, and I mean, it's impossible to have everybody necessarily be rich. I mean, but you can have what you want. You want to have some sort of balance between the two. If you have too much of an imbalance or too much, what do they call it? Like wealth inequality, whatever you want to call it. At some point, it gets to be too much, and you risk. What I think the terminology he used is, if you think about, capitalism or capitalism politics is like a game, right? We're all playing a game and there's chess pieces moving around. And if you have too many people who end up on one side, if too many people are poor or struggling to survive, at some point they just flip over the whole board and say, fuck the game.
And there's actually quite a few people in our community of the autism world that actually are anti-capitalists.
Right.
Who are actually, they're anti a whole lot of things.
What he was talking about was how revolutions start. At some point, if you have too many people who are disaffected, if you're somebody who is rich and in power, you should want people to be generally taken care of, because if too many of them pool together, they could just say, fuck the system, fuck the game, and burn everything down. And you don't want that, because you lose all the money and the power and the status you have if everybody decides to just burn society down. If we decide to just set all the cities on fire and burn everything to the ground and revolt and refuse to work, then if you have nothing to gain and nothing to live for by going to work and trying to contribute to society,
right?
Then why do it? Why am I going to be a member of the society that doesn't provide me anything and just fucking uses and abuses me? At some point, you're just like, fuck it. But that was something interesting he talked about.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I would assume actually think that we're at that point now, even though I don't fucking think we are. I think we're a ways from it yet. But there's some people who actually believe we're at that point where we've got to flip over that board.
Yeah.
There are specific people on Facebook pages who specifically say stuff like that. Anti-capitalism, I shouldn't have to work to make a living. Yes, you should. But it also depends on how you make a living, I guess, too. Yeah. Anyway, there's that.
I like to eat paste. I'm just kidding. I am hungry, though. So I think we're going to wrap up in a minute.
Probably a good idea.
I'm getting hangry.
Yep. And I'm going to go hang out with my family because, again, from the beginning of the episode, I'm in Pennsylvania hanging out with family who live here. So I'm going to go hang out with them for a little while because I don't get to see them very often.
All right.
So thank you, everybody, for tuning into our show this time around. We will be back next week doing another episode, whether it be just me and Steve kicking around a topic like we sometimes do.
Unless we get canceled.
Or we get canceled. Or we'll have somebody we're going to interview again. Now, I will say this much. If you have not listened to any other episode than this one, please take a look at some other ones, especially some of the interviews that we've had. Lately, we've had some clinical researcher on. We had a comedian from Australia on. So take a listen to some other episodes. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to tell us we suck, you want to tell us we're awesome, put in some comments, put a comment on Facebook, put a comment on this episode, watch us on TikTok, watch us on Instagram, or do any of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.